call vote. A council member will be recognized, raise their hand, and then state their vote. Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Mundy.
Present.
Councilmember Scipio.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Thank you. We're all present. Would you please join the City Council and me in a moment of silence? Thank you very much. Well, tonight's agenda of the City Council is comprised of two parts, the general agenda and the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda have been unanimously recommended by a committee of the Winston-Salem City Council or are being submitted in accordance with established city procedures. There'll be no discussion of the items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered individually. Items not removed from the consent agenda will be enacted with one motion. We're televising this meeting live tonight on TV 13, and it will be replayed tomorrow at 9 a.m. and again Wednesday at 9 p.m. Of course, copies of our agenda, as well as videos of previous meetings, are always available online at the city's website, cityofws.org, and just click on the Watch Meetings Online option. Council members, are there any items you wish to pull from the consent agenda?
Mayor, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. We will now do the vote, and this will be approval of the consent agenda. Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy?
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh?
Aye.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Thank you. That is unanimous. The consent agenda has been approved. We'll now go to the general agenda, which is comprised of the following items. There are two street closings, an item related to weight limitations to through traffic, an item related to the Malin Rug PLC Chapter 11 bankruptcy reorganization plan, an item related to the Carolina Classic Fair, two items related to boards and commissions, as well as a public comment period. Street closing items are listed for public hearings. When these public hearings are called, persons who would like to speak will be called upon. Each time we would request that you give your name and address and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. If no one wishes to speak, I'll close the public hearing and the City Council will consider the item. We'll say that written comments were accepted on the public hearing items until 24 hours prior to the start of this meeting. Public comment period, as you know, is a time set aside for citizens to voice their opinions on matters that are germane to city government. When the virtual comment period is called, each speaker will be given 3 minutes, and the total comment period was limited to 30 minutes. Ms. Kenya, would you read the first item?
Item G1, public hearing on petition to close and abandon an unopened portion of Ariel Street and notice to all persons interested in the closing thereof. Recommended by Public Works Committee.
Thank you. I understand that no one has signed up to be heard on this matter and public hearing. Therefore, I'll close the public hearing. And this is in the Southeast Ward, but it did come from the Public Works Committee. So I recognize the Chairman of Public Works, Councilmember McIntosh.
Thank you. I move that we approve agenda item G-1.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, that will go to the vote. A yes vote approves this closing. Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy?
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh?
Aye.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Thank you. That's unanimous. Item G2.
Item G2, public hearing on petition to close and abandon Farrell Court and notice to all persons interested in the closing thereof. Recommended by Public Works Committee. A request to continue this item has been received.
Do we have a request to continue this to the second meeting in October? And I would entertain a motion in that regard if I recognize Councilmember Scipio.
Mr. Mayor and fellow colleagues, I move that we continue this to the next meeting.
Second.
The second meeting in October, fine.
Second meeting in October. Yes.
October 18th.
October 18th. Thank you. All right.
That's my birthday, in case anybody wonders. Little time to buy presents.
I have a motion and a second. This is to continue this to October 18th, or Councilmember Clark's birthday. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. That is unanimous to continue that item. Item G3.
Item G3, ordinance amending section 42-97 of City Code relating to weight limitations on through traffic on certain city streets.
Thank you. This is related to items in North and Northwest wards. I recognize Mayor Pro Tem Adams, if you're ready for a motion, or do you need any information presented?
No, I'm good, Mayor. I move for approval of item G3.
Second, McIntosh.
Thank you. Any discussion on this item? All right, go to the roll call. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. That is unanimous. Item G4.
Item G4, resolution authorizing or ratifying the city's vote in favor of the Mylan Craft PLC Chapter 11 bankruptcy reorganization plan.
Is there a motion?
Move approval, Clark.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Any questions?
Yes, Ms.
Yes, Councilmember Scipio.
Me. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I just had a couple of questions for Attorney Carmen. One is, do we have a sense of how many other complainants are involved in this bankruptcy, and they must vote in favor? Secondly, is there any indication of how our city might benefit from the outcome of the bankruptcy? And is there a timetable that we can expect any hearing on this, any resolution?
Yeah, I'll be happy to answer those questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Carmen.
In terms of the number of cities involved, I'm not sure of the number, but there are cities all across the nation that are involved. Most of the opioid lawsuits included this particular defendant. And as of the end of last week, it looks like the vote to confirm this reorganization plan will occur on September 24th. As I've mentioned in the resolution, the outside counsel that filed the lawsuit, the opioid lawsuit on behalf of the city, recommends approval of this resolution, which in essence enables them to cast a vote in favor of the plan. Right now, preliminarily, it looks like Mallinckrodt has been basically, if this plan is approved, will be paying about $1.6 billion into a trust to be allocated amongst all of the creditors. At this time, I do not know how much the city will receive, and that amount is supposed to be allocated over, I think, 7 years. Did I answer all of your questions?
Thank you. Yes, it did. Thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
I was just going to comment that the council knows that this is kind of like those little pieces of paper you get in the mail that tells you that you can be part of this lawsuit, and you may end up with a penny or 3 cents. So it's not about the monetary value. It's about the quality of life value that these companies have reaped upon our humanity.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Do we have a motion and a second? Any further discussion or questions? All right, go to the vote. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. That is unanimous. Item G5.
Item G5, authorization to hold the 2021 Carolina Classic Fair.
I'd like to call on Assistant City Manager Ben Rao to review the safety protocols that have been put together and recommended for the fair. Mr. Rao.
Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tempore Adams, and members of the City Council. Last week, staff presented to the Community Development, Housing, General Government Committee the health and safety opening plan for the 2021 Carolina Classic Fair. There are a number of measures that were outlined in that plan, including health screening questions, the prolific use of hand sanitizers, signage that would be dispersed throughout the fairgrounds, not only with the health messages, but also communicating our mask requirements, social distancing, trying to facilitate the flow through the fairgrounds, touchless ticketing, just a number of measures that we plan to implement to ensure that the event is safe. Out of that meeting, there were two additional measures that we plan to take to ensure the safety of the fair. One is to pay overtime to our police officers who will be working the fair to help ensure that we have staffing to support the fair event. And then the change in our masking requirements. Initially, the plan called for mask requirement indoors, which is consistent with the mayor's emergency declaration, and then a strong recommendation to fairgoers to wear their mask if they're outdoors. Based on the feedback that staff received, we're now changing that to a full mask requirement. In other words, fairgoers, vendors, employees will have to wear a mask at all times, indoors and outdoors, throughout the fairgrounds. We already have 50,000 masks on site, and staff will ensure that fairgoers receive a mask when they enter the fair if they don't already have one with them. So those are the two significant changes that we are adding to the plan, and that we will be sure to communicate to fairgoers and, as I mentioned before, as well as vendors and employees if the council chooses to move forward with the fair. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. Are there any questions for Mr. Rao? All right. I entertain a motion to approve going forward with the fair.
I'll make the motion, Clark.
Thank you, sir. Second.
Second, Monday.
Okay, motion and second. Is there a discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Adams, and then Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you, Mr. Rao, and your team. For me, my phone and emails have been blown up over the past week from the media and other places across the state wanting me to weigh in. But no, I didn't respond because I felt like I said all I needed to say in general government meeting. But it still just boggles my mind that even though we're in the midst of numbers that we haven't seen in Forsyth County in quite some time, as a matter of fact, in the Journal this morning, it said that since August the 20th, the county has reported 6,524 cases, new cases, and 50 deaths. And then, for us to say last week that the numbers were going down, that's not true, because the director of public health said that it looks like Forsyth County is going to stay in the 1,200 to 1,400 weekly case trend for September. While we may go down slightly after that, it won't be at the levels that we were in June and July for quite some time. I still believe that this is a call that we need to make. I've heard from numerous citizens via emails, phone calls, grocery store, whatever, that they think the fair is not a good idea right now. And the fact that we are going like all out to provide some quote unquote safety measures that really, at the end of the day, really won't matter. And the thing that also gets me is that somebody's trying to weave this thing around revenue and economy. when all of us know that the money lost last year, was lost. But that doesn't mean that we need to have a fair. People think we're doing this to recoup lost revenue or that we need the money. And I spoke on my behalf that that's not true. So again, Mayor and members of the council and the public, I am still adamantly against having this fair because of the number of cases of young children, because of cases of unvaccinated people. And I just think that pulling the plug one more year is not going to make or break this fair. This fair will come back next year bigger and better, but I just feel like right now is not the time. I feel like we have overstressed our Winston-Salem Police Department and the sheriff in light of all of the things, the shootings, the violence, and the fightings in our cities with our young people. I think we need to press pause. I think we need to press pause in knowing that we are going to save lives and prevent people from getting this virus, as well as people from being stressed out mentally, and as well as protecting our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clark?
Yeah, I will be supporting it. I did make the motion. To me, it's not money. It's not this or that. It's a very, very fundamental question, and that is, when do we start living our lives? COVID is not going away anytime soon. I think it could be here for years. And if we think we can survive as a society by living under a rock for another 3 or 4 years, we're not going to make it. To me, it's a case of affirmation of life, that we're going to get out there, take appropriate precautions, but get on living. I went to the Wake Forest football game, and I tell you what, they absolutely kicked Florida State. But anyway, that's an aside. But there was 32,000 people there. Maybe half of 1/10% had a mask on, but not. This is the third week in a row. Wake's had big crowds. There have not been any mega breakouts from them. And these are people sitting side by side outdoor for hours at a time. I have made a decision that it is time to move on with my life. I take appropriate measures. I have been vaccinated. I will get the booster when I am able to. I will take appropriate measures, but I'm tired of living under a rock. And to me, this is an affirmation of life. It has nothing to do with money. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember McIntosh?
Yeah, all along we've been talking about following the science on this. And very early on, the magic number was 5% of the population testing negative. And we are still, Forsyth County is still at 10.5%. And looking at the latest CDC data, it doesn't look like that is changing very rapidly. Not only that, but I'm going to list the counties that I think participants of the fair or people who come to the fair, the counties that they come from and their rates. Yadkin County, 16%, Surrey County, 14.9%, Stokes County, 13.8%, Davidson County, 17%, Davie County, 16%, Wilkes County, 10.8%, Rockingham, 11.6%, Guilford, 9.0%. To me, that's nowhere near where Mandy Cohen says we need to be to all start congregating together in crowds. I think staff has done an excellent job of the best they can at providing the safest plan going forward. But in there, there's a statement about relying on the folks at the fair to do what's best. And I just think in that environment, that's a very difficult thing to do. I've got season tickets for Wake football. I won't go near one of those games with that many people that are unmasked. I just think it's asking for trouble. I don't think all those people there, I think there are more than 5% of them that are going to test positive in that arena. And so it's our choice. And I know this is our choice as well, but it's up to us to not provide the petri dish for people to get infected in.
That's where Monday.
Echoing that it's not about economics at all. It really is about kind of giving us an opportunity to get back with our lives, particularly giving those folks who don't have the opportunity to entertain themselves on a regular basis, that this is something that they look forward to on an annual basis. As far as the numbers go, that 5% number was pre-vaccine. There was no vaccine. and the test consisted of people, who had been vaccinated and who had not been vaccinated. Now that positive rate is largely from people who've not been vaccinated. I dare say that if we had a percentage of anyone who's been vaccinated, it would be less than 0.5%. We know that there are some breakthrough cases, but as a general rule, if you're vaccinated, you are not going to get the virus. If you do, the virus is not going to be nearly as bad. We also know that everyone has an opportunity to be vaccinated. And just like someone who doesn't wear a seatbelt, if they're in an accident and badly damaged, we lament that fact, but we also ask, did that person have some degree of responsibility? And everyone has a degree of responsibility, and everyone, unless their doctor has told them they can't, needs to be vaccinated. That speaks for itself. The other thing I want to say is we've said all along, follow the science and listen to the experts. Follow the science and listen to the experts. We had 2 experts in our committee meeting that told us they thought it was safe to proceed with this event. And we can't say, listen to the experts as long as they say what I want them to say. But when they say something I don't want to say, I'm going to disagree. So I'm going to continue to follow my own advice, which is follow the science and listen to the experts.
Thank you. Councilor Larson?
I think there are a variety of reasons why we should look at activating the Classic Fair, Carolina Classic this year. It's been a long, dry spell. It's an essential source of entertainment for a lot of people that don't have access to good entertainment otherwise. We all have choices to make. We can go to the fair, or we can't go to the fair. We can take the vaccine or not take the vaccine. If we've taken the vaccine and follow the protocols of masking and hand washing and what have you, chances are that you can go to the fair and be perfectly safe and have a good time with it. If you haven't followed any of those protocols and you choose to go to the fair, then of course you take a certain risk of exposure that otherwise you may not have to have. But that's a choice that you're making to hold captive, as it were, population of the city because they have taken the vaccine and other people have not, and do not have the right then to go to the fair because of that. Seems to me not to be equitable. I think that the fair itself economically is not a matter of discussion. I think it's more of a matter of prestige and commitment by the city to move forward, and I'm all for that. So I will be supporting reopening the fair this year.
Thank you. Councilor Burke.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. Mr. Rao, I want to say thank you to you and to the staff for gathering the information and answering the questions that were asked last time. I know I asked a question about the number of children who attended the fair under the age 12 the last time we had it, and you provided numbers for 2019, and we had over 48,000 children under the age 12 attend the fair in 2019. I'm concerned about that number because, as we all know, children under the age 12 are not able to get the vaccine, and children under the age 12 can catch and carry the virus just like anyone else. I'm also concerned about the data for our city. And I think Mayor Pro Tem gave us some information just a little bit ago when she said the number of new cases are up in our city and the number of deaths are up in our city. I just believe that as leaders of this community, this is probably not the wisest decision to make to open the fair at this time. I think that we need to think of alternative ways for us to enjoy ourselves without having a full outright fair. I think there are safer ways that we can get out and we can enjoy life other than having the fair. And so for those reasons right there, I will not be supporting the fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. All right, we'll go to a Councilmember Scipio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been thinking about this decision, and I thought about these things. There are public events and they're private, and everyone either thinks about themselves as being part of the public or they're being in a special group. My biggest concern and my question was, should the vaccinated people in this
period
be punished because others in the public have chosen to risk their contacting COVID by not getting vaccinated? I don't think it's fair for those who have already been vaccinated to protect themselves to be denied the pleasures of going to the fair. I am very much in favor of everyone getting masks at all times at the fair. That would help make sure that the fair doesn't become a super spread event. I am real concerned about those who are not vaccinated because they are going to come and they're going to attend, but they're willing to risk getting other people sick and getting themselves sick, even choosing to die because you're not vaccinated. The unvaccinated don't have the right to make others sick. So they think they need to think of themselves as private people, not public people. Attending the fair is a personal choice. Parents with young children should be wise and not bring their children to the fair. Unvaccinated people should be wise and not come to the fair because it's a personal decision to come, to spend some money, to eat that fair food, and to go on some of the rides. The nature of the virus is to survive, whether we have the fair or not. There has to be a shift in other behavior because that virus seeks to survive. And as long as it has host bodies that it can come into, it will survive and it will mutate. And it will thrive. It will not go away until people take the responsibility to eliminate their host bodies. And that's what the vaccine does. It says to the virus, you can't come here easily. Part of the issue we're facing is how do we dictate behavior to other people? On some fronts, they want us to do that. In others, they don't. This is not a political decision. This is about community. Community. The last part of community is unity. How do we get on one accord as a community? How do we promote people joining together to eliminate and eradicate this virus? That's our challenge, whether we have the fair or not have the fair. If people not on one accord, that virus is going to be with us. People are choosing to go to big events with lots of people. They're taking that risk. Our hospitals are getting overloaded with the sick. Will we ever mandate, if you chose not to get the vaccination, that we give you no health care because you are creating shortages in hospital care for those who don't have the virus? These are things that we may one day have to face. There are states that are facing how to decide who gets COVID treatment. I want us to think about how do we get unity within our community and get people to be thinking more critically about their own choices. Whether we have the fair or not is what we still have to do, is get healthy thinking back to our community and to our neighbors. The unvaccinated are taking tremendous risk and they don't see it. But I don't think the vaccinated people should be punished because of that. So I'm going to vote in favor of having the fair and letting people make their own personal choices of whether or not they come and take a risk if they're unvaccinated or vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to the vote, Councilmember Larson.
Vote in favor of the fair.
Thank you. Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
No.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Nay.
Councilmember Burke.
No.
Thank you. The motion passes 5 in favor, 3 opposed. Thank you all very much. All right, item G6.
Item G6, Mayor Pro Tem Adams' recommendation for appointment to the Community Appearance Commission. Brenda Fulmore, appointment, categorical position, term expiring February 2023.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All right, move to the vote. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, for that recommendation. Item G7.
Item G7, Mayor Joines' recommendation for appointments to the Urban Food Policy Council. Christopher S. Jeffords, term expiring 2024. Justin L. Wilson, term expiring 2024.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Motion second. Any discussion? Going to the roll call. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Councilmember Mundy.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Yes.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Yes.
Thank you. That is unanimous. Item G8.
Item G8, public comment period.
Again, this is a time once per month where the City Council sets aside 30 minutes, invites citizens to address it on matters that are germane to city government. When your name is called, please give your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Ms. Martin is going to call out the names. Ms. Martin?
Artie Kamaya.
Good evening. My name is Artie Camille. I live at 3509 Mossdale Avenue in Durham, North Carolina. Dear Honorable Winston-Salem City Council members, my name is Artie Camille. I serve as the part-time executive director for NC SHAPE. This is North Carolina's nonprofit organization for health and physical education teachers. We are currently under contract with the city's Benton Convention Center to have our 2021 NC SHAPE State Convention on October 31st, November 1st, and November 2nd. We would like to request that the Benton Convention Center grant us the ability to postpone this event based on the contract's impossibility clause, which reads, the performance of this agreement is subject to any circumstance making it illegal or impossible to provide the use of the Benton Convention Center facilities, including acts of God, war, government regulations, disasters, strikes, civil disaster, or curtailment of transportation facilities. This agreement may be terminated only for any of the above reasons by written notice. As a bit of background, last year the Benton Convention Center accepted our request to apply this clause because of COVID. In other words, we were able to cancel last year's gathering without any financial penalty. This year, Benton is reluctant to apply the same measure as they feel it's not technically illegal as long as they can physically provide us with use of their facility. as a counterpoint, we feel, as a community of school educators, that it is impossible and irresponsible to keep this event in place as North Carolina's COVID infections, hospitalizations, and associated deaths continue to gather strength, especially among the state's non-vaccinated populations. So, with this in mind, we graciously ask the Winston-Salem City Council to grant our organization the ability to apply this cause to our upcoming event and towards any rescheduled 2022 Benton meeting. As an aside, just before I came on, I received an email from one of our partner organizations. We're not doing this alone. We have the math educators, the science educators, the music.
Sir, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay.
I'm sure we will follow up. We'll certainly follow up with your request. The Benton is managed by an outside party for us, so it's not totally the city's decision on that. But thank you and we appreciate your business, by the way.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
With that, next speaker, please.
Gary McCoy.
My name is Gary McCoy. I live at 474 Petrie Road. I spoke to council members 1 month ago about the Petrie Road sidewalk project. I stated that the vast majority of we residents oppose the grass strip. In fact, I've yet to talk to a resident who favors it. A regular sidewalk, 2-foot 6-inch gutter and curb, and a 5-foot sidewalk is more than adequate. After I was muted, I heard Mayor Joynes say that he had Jeff McIntosh working on this matter. I thought that's not good for us. I first talked to Mr. McIntosh 6 months ago, and he told me then that city engineers had told him we needed this strip and that he couldn't help us. When I last spoke, I was hoping that someone would finally listen to us. We were hoping for a fair review process. We're yet to get that. I was not surprised when Mr. McIntosh and I talked on August 27th, and he told me he had decided to go with the strip. So is this it? How does local government work? Is Mr. McIntosh the sole decision maker since the project is in his ward? That doesn't seem democratic. We intend to appeal to other council members tonight. We intend to rebut the city's two main arguments for a need of a grass strip, mailbox placement and pedestrian safety. This cannot be a done deal, surely. Do we live in a representative democracy where our voices deserve to be heard? Throughout this whole process, we have not had one sympathetic ear to listen to our preference. If I had known before I voted in 2014 in favor of the referendum that we would end up with a grass strip, I would never in a million years have voted for it. Who wants to see their front yard carved up? We don't, but I guess we don't count unless the other 7 members stand up for us. This isn't temporary. We might have to maintain this ugly strip for the rest of our lives. So I'm calling on Mayor Joynes and council members upon the completion of this call-in portion to pass a resolution that favors Petrie Road homeowners for a change. How would you all feel if this unpopular measure was being pushed on you? We are pleading for your help. This is just not fair. If the city wants to practice really good government, you could give us a hybrid model like the Peace Haven sidewalk. Some areas have a strip, some have regular sidewalks. I doubt you'll have many takers for the strip, but that would be a laudable compromise. I've had a lot of people come up to me telling me of their support. One Thornhill neighbor told me she was praying for me. I want to thank them all publicly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coyle. Next speaker, please.
Candy McCoy.
My name is Candy McCoy, and I live at 474 Petrie Road. I oppose the grass strip aspect of the proposed sidewalk. I want to first make clear that my husband and I, as well as most of my neighbors, favor a regular sidewalk. Over the years, we have developed a beautiful property. We do not hire landscapers. We do all the work ourselves. And now the city tells us they're going to go back 11 feet onto our property, 2.5 feet of gutter and curb, 3.5 feet of grass strip, and 5 feet of sidewalk. We lose a lot, leave out the strip, and our losses are less severe. Our beautiful azaleas, many of them, will be gone. Our property will never be as nice. The most upsetting aspect of this project is the bogus argument that the city uses pertaining to the pedestrian safety issue. I feel safe walking on a regular sidewalk when I'm 7.5 feet from the edge of a road. I don't need to be 11 feet away. Who gets hit by a vehicle walking on a sidewalk? Unless it's a political rally and some crazy does it intentionally, or possibly an elderly driver mistakes the gas pedal for the brake in a crowded city area. That happens occasionally, but that doesn't happen here. I want the city to document any pedestrian vehicular accident that has happened on our regular Petrie Road sidewalk that we've had for nearly 20 years. When dozens of students and others use it daily going to the high school and back home, it doesn't happen. Prove me wrong. Has it ever happened? Stop trying, city engineers, to invent a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. We don't need the grass strip. We hear about this national standard model of sidewalks that contains a grass strip. That national standard was meant for new developments, large subdivisions, not Petrie Road. City engineers are being disingenuous trying to push this pedestrian safety issue on us. We are already safe. My husband spoke to the chief project engineer, Alan Temple, some months ago and asked Alan, "You could give us what we want, couldn't you?" Alan replied, "Yes, we could." To that, my husband asked, "But you're not going to, are you?" And Alan countered with the answer, "Yes, that's right. We faced arrogance and indifference all along in this search for a solution. We thank you very much for your consideration of this issue and hope you will put it to a vote. Thank you."
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Allie Jones.
Good evening. My name is Allie Jones. I live in 27106. Tonight, I am speaking on behalf of HADOT of Winston and reading a statement written by my comrade, Celine Johnson. We would like to thank council for their time and direct this comment specifically to the members of Public Safety Committee, council members Taylor, Larson, Burke, and Mundy. In May 21, more than 100 local professionals who work in the fields of mental illness, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and substance use disorder provided a letter to Winston-Salem City Council recommending a mental health alternative response program wherein 911 dispatchers are trained to dispatch mental health professionals and medic teams to nonviolent and non-criminal calls, law enforcement to criminal and violent calls, and both mental health professionals and law enforcement when both are needed. The City of Winston-Salem has engaged RTI International to analyze previous 911 call data, research mental health response models, and recommend a model for our community to pilot. As people in our community continue to encounter systemic inequities, we are demanding that this process be implemented in a fair and just way for all. RTI reported that their analysis would include focus groups. Thus far, it appears that Winston-Salem police officers are the only focus group that has been engaged. In addition to police officers, if our city is to truly embrace change and break down barriers, we must have much greater representation in our focus groups. First, we need to ensure that RTI is hearing from professionals who work in the fields of mental health, intellectual developmental disabilities, substance use disorder, and social work, especially our Black and Brown professionals, please. Secondly, it is critical to hear from the people who might receive these services, people who are diagnosed with mental health conditions, disabilities, substance use disorder, and more. As said in the field of autism work, nothing for us without us. As our city continues to explore the type of alternative 911 response, it is too important for us to get it wrong, too important to count people out, too important to dismiss the necessary professionals and community members who will be impacted. RTI stated explicitly that the 911 data are an underrepresentation of the number of mental health related calls. We question how data which clearly underrepresent the volume of calls with a mental health component can be reliably used to inform decisions regarding Winston-Salem's mental health response pilot program. And we ask, do these data include other nonviolent, non-criminal calls such as substance use disorder, intellectual developmental disability or behavioral crisis, well checks, homelessness, and domestic disputes that would be more appropriately addressed by non-law enforcement professionals? In a desire to bridge a vital gap in our community, especially in the Black and Brown communities, we are passionate about our commitment to advocate for the 911 mental health alternative response plan. We believe key individuals are being left out of a vital change in our community, and we know important components are missing without our voices of expertise in mental health, intellectual and developmental disabilities, substance use disorder, social work, and other human services fields. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Dan Rose.
Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, esteemed members of the council. My name is Dan Rose. I live at 2054 Craig Street, and I am a member of Housing Justice Now. I am here to say thank you. First of all, included in tonight's consent agenda is an investment from the city of Winston-Salem of $100,000 toward tenant legal representation. And it is now that Winston-Salem is joining other cities across the state, including Charlotte and Durham, other cities across the country that are making investments in the tenant's civil right to eviction defense representation. But I'm also here to tell you that it's not enough. Legal Aid of North Carolina has told Forsyth County and the city of Winston-Salem that they need $1.2 million just to represent 1,000 families. That would be an incredible impact on our evictions that are happening here in Winston-Salem. There have been over 5,000 evictions filed since the pandemic began in this city. This is a racial justice issue. We know for a fact that evictions hit hardest among Black women, among Latino women, and this city needs to make it a priority. If we do not do this, we are not only lowballing tenants with merely $100,000 invested, we are lowballing ourselves as taxpayers and as stewards of the city's budget. Let me tell you what I mean about that. The city of Baltimore has found that for every dollar they've invested in tenant representation costs, they have saved $7. And that comes from homelessness services, which will come around back to your door for more money, transportation costs, having kids require extra services at schools, Medicaid, other costs, both local, county, and state. City of Philadelphia found that when they invested $3.5 million in tenant legal representation, that they saved $42 million, a 13-to-1 return on investment. This is why not only Democrats, but also Republicans broadly support tenant right to counsel. What we have done here is an important first step in making sure that some additional tenants can be served by legal aid. But right now, only 4.3% of tenants going into that Forsyth County Government Center have a lawyer. And it is almost guaranteed that they will lose without one, even if they have the right to remain in their home. That's not how our justice system works. Until we make it a civil right, we want to see more investment. We want to see the full civil right to counsel for tenants and make it permanent so that we are not coming back every year reminding you that Winston-Salem is number 16 in the nation for evictions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be heard. My name is Lisa Yu. I live at 2703 Cedar Creek Drive in Durham, North Carolina. And I have been attending as a vendor the Dixie Classic Fair and now the Carolina Classic Fair for at least a decade. I was really looking forward to participating this year, especially after such a long break. And I feel personally that a mask mandate interferes with my own personal ability to serve the community and to also serve the community. I'll explain why. My booth happens to be a face painting booth where we entertain children and families. And if people are forced to wear a mask, that pretty much excludes my service, making it very difficult to present, our opportunities to serve the community. But it's also beyond that. I feel that masks are a medical device that should be up to a doctor to prescribe. I do not feel that in an outdoor setting, a mask should be a prerequisite for attending that I must wear a mask. I feel like each individual person should be able to decide if they want to wear a mask or not. I also understand that masks create an aerosol issue. In other words, the masks the majority of the public use actually create a finer aerosol which lingers in the air longer. And this is not science that's discussed openly, but it is true science. In addition to that, there are a lot of other factors that go into the public's opinion and interfere with the reality of COVID and how it is actually spread. And I think an emphasis on hand sanitizing and washing is understated and the mask is overstated. Those are my personal views, and it's unfortunate that I will not be able to participate now that you all have voted for a mask mandate.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Scott Pruitt.
My name is Scott Pruitt, and I live at 478 on Petrie Road. My purpose for speaking this evening is to review one of the two primary arguments that the city is making to justify the need of a grass strip on the Petrie Road sidewalk project. The specific argument that I'm going to address is the need for the grass strips so that mailboxes can be placed within the strip. There are many ways to send and receive mail, and at least 4 of my neighbors on this road have had their mailbox partway down the driveway that is not directly accessible by the street. The only requirement for this is there's room for the mail carrier to turn around, which many of the houses on this street have room to accommodate for should they desire their mailbox to be positioned this way. Another suitable location for the mailbox is directly across the road. There's been at least one neighbor that has successfully done this for many years, and as to my knowledge, has not had any complaint from the city. Another widely used option is for the carrier to park their vehicle and deliver the mail to the house. In one of the prominent areas around here, such as Ardmore, Univista, and Weston, there are sidewalks with grass strips that don't have any mailboxes in them at all. And the majority of these residents get their mailbox just delivered directly to their houses. For roads with normal sidewalks without grass strips, it is possible to have the mailbox placed in such a way that the carrier does not have to leave their vehicle by having the mailbox placed on the inside of the sidewalk. Driving down Polo Road from Robin Hood Road to Renota, there's at least 15 mailboxes that are placed in such a way. And the way they get their mail delivered is the mailbox where the mail truck pulls onto the sidewalk and can just complete their delivery and move on. This particular method also provides for a large area for traffic to go around the south mail truck, reducing some of the impediment of traffic. I personally have some additional issues with this grass strip, as I have a very short and small front yard, and the additional 3.5 feet, it really cuts into it. On top of that, I have a beautiful magnolia tree that is slated to be removed, as well as some myrtle bushes and a holly tree. Even if I replant this magnolia tree, the day the sidewalk project is finished, I will never in my life have it to be as big and beautiful as it is today. In short, I think the city's being really disingenuous about the mailbox replacement as a hard requirement for the grass strip. And I think it's a very callous disregard for the local residents' input for a regular sidewalk. I'm pleading with the council members and Mayor Jones to reconsider the grass strip. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Louis Rowade.
Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Lois Rowade, 3835 Lakeview Drive in Pufftown. I'm commenting on consent agenda number 21, which was the Lakeview Bridge project, which thank you to every council member for approving tonight. This is the reconstruction of a new bridge that serves our area out here. Some of you may not be familiar with this area. We're tucked back here in the woods, kind of away from everybody, with very limited access routes into the area. There are basically only 3. They're complicated, they're curvy, hilly roads, and without the bridge, we now only have 2 of these. The detour that the lack of the bridge has caused adds about 8 minutes to our getting in and out of the area, which we've all learned to live with as community people. But our major concern is the fact that emergency vehicles on 3 occasions have been directed to the bridge area. And then there has been confusion about, okay, what signs do we follow? How do we get where we need to go? And it adds that additional 8 minutes to them getting to the homes or the people that have needed the emergency services. Thankfully, none of them have been really life or death issues, but they could be. It could have been a heart attack. It could have been a stroke. And the outcome could have been very different than what they have been. So what we are asking tonight is that you please move this project along to the funding stage. We need to get it to that point. We've been without the bridge for 1.5 years now. I suspect it's going to be another year, but please do whatever you can to get the funding in place. And before I close, I'd like to send a big shout out to city staff who have been wonderful. They have kept us informed. They answer emails. They answer questions. They have made us feel like we are heard, respected, and part of this whole project, especially Keith Huff and Johnny Taylor, sorry. And Mayor Pro Tem, Dee Dee Adams, couldn't be doing this without you either. You were very instrumental in moving it through the first design stage, and I know you're with us all the way. So thanks to everybody that's doing what you can to get this done.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Sanjay Ahar. Sanjay, press *6. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Joints, and council members. My name is Sanjay Ahir. I own the resident 520 Peachtree Road, and I'm in a position of grass strip because it's unnecessary in my opinion, because it's not consistent with Polo Road, P7 Road, and Robin Hood Road. In the same vicinity, that new grass strip will be different than the existing sidewalks. So as aesthetically looking, I think it will not look good. Secondly, it's not safe, because I don't think we had any accidents before, and I don't agree with the mailboxes will be in the way. So I agree with the grass strips in the new development and new subdivisions where it's necessary, and with the new ordinance that's required there. I build many subdivisions and homes. I'm a builder in town. I build hundreds of homes, and in my opinion, it doesn't make sense to have a grass strip, and particularly in that vicinity where there are no grass strips all around those roads. So I think, plus the people taking the people's yard, and also including increasing the cost of the project by grading the unnecessary areas in people's yard. So I would like to plead all the council members, Mr. Mayor joins, that if you can consider eliminate the grass strip and do 2 feet 6 inches curb and the sidewalk 5 feet sidewalk, that will be appropriate. So consider that, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Lee Thompson.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Clee Thompson, and my address is 3825 Lakeview Drive. So I'm speaking about the Lakeview Bridge project. And I also want to echo what Lois Ruade said. Thank you to all of those in the city who have kept us posted and informed and helped to push this project along. My only concern is And thank you all for the consent tonight. We really appreciate that. My concern, however, is that we are a small little community. We're not a big area. You have done so well to give us attention. I'm just asking that you continue to do that. The bridge is important to us, especially regarding emergency vehicles. My husband had a situation where we did need an emergency vehicle, and it took a while to get there, and that was uncomfortable. So please don't forget about us, even though we're nestled back in a whole bunch of trees and lovely area. We need our bridge. Please, please, please help find the funding for it. Okay. And thanks again to Dee Dee Adams also for pushing this along for us. Thanks, everyone, and just don't forget us, please. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for one more speaker.
Miranda Jones.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. Hayes out of Winston is grateful for the research being conducted by the Winston-Salem, Carolina cohort of cities, research being conducted around the 911 calls for service, understanding alternative responses. Being that most of us are special educators, we respect and understand the need for data. We have some particular concerns around the deeper dive of the pilot focus groups. The current research suggests that the pilot groups were only from the Winston-Salem Police Department. This is highly problematic and will result in deeply flawed data. We're asking that the pilot groups consist of African-American mental health practitioners as well as those who are Indigenous people of color. This should also include those who specialize in intellectual disabilities, mental illness, homelessness, and people with substance use disorder. To leave out any of these people, especially African Americans, is nothing less than surreptitious. Additionally, we alongside well over 100 mental health practitioners continue to oppose a co-response model, citing how police, while sometimes needed, often escalate situations as they are a visual source of tension for marginalized and oppressed people. Additionally, by their own admission, they are not trained to deal with those in the midst of a mental health crisis. In the words of my comrade Celine and her colleague Darlene, and the desire to bridge a vital gap in our community, especially in the Black and Brown communities, we are passionate about our commitment to advocate for the 911 mental health alternative response plan. We believe key individuals are being left out of a vital change in our community. We know important components are missing without our voices of expertise in mental health, intellectual developmental disabilities, substance use disorder, social work, and other human service fields. Excuse us, please move down a bit as we pull up our chairs to the table. Additionally, and this is an aside, because I have worked with Black children in the classroom for almost a decade and in group homes and a variety of settings for almost 20 years, I implore you and your offices to conduct research on cure violence. I need for you to see this uptick in what's happening recently as a public health issue and not something that is just haphazard. It isn't. As I sit daily and I listen to my beloved students speak cryptically about what's happening and about what crew is going to do what to another crew, I shudder to think of what's next. Please, please, please have your staff check out the model of cure violence. I'm a part of a gang. You are a part of a gang. We call ourselves the Black Teacher Gang and Hate Out of Winston. Let our gangs be part of the solution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I'll therefore close the public comment period and would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those